Today is Wednesday, May 13th, 2026, and this is Read Through the Bible.
Hi, everyone.
And we promised you yesterday that we would have a quieter podcast today.
That's right. And we are back home, and we got home Monday night with David, and David's home for the summer.
Yep.
And so we are back to our usual recording setting, which is our living room.
Yes. Okay, so we've been reading through 1 Corinthians, and we are today going to read 1 Corinthians chapters 7 and 8.
Okay, and so we're at a new point in 1 Corinthians structurally. 1 through 6 had been problems and solutions. And then now,
and the sort of problems were like ministry was a problem, and favoritism, and divisions was a problem, and dealing with sexually immoral man in the church was a problem, and lawsuits were a problem. And now he's got some questions. So apparently they wrote Paul some questions about various things. He's going to answer them. So this is 7 and following his questions and answers.
Right. So that's what we're starting today.
Okay. So problems and solutions, questions and answers. First question has to do about marriage. Chapter 7, verse 1. Now concerning the matters about which you wrote, it is good for a man not to have sexual relations with a woman. But because of the temptation to sexual immorality, each man should have his own wife, and each woman her own husband. The husband should give to his wife her conjugal rights, and likewise the wife to her husband. For the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. Likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another, except perhaps by agreement for a limited time, that you may devote yourselves to prayer, but then come together again, so that Satan may not tempt you because of your lack of self-control.
Now, as a concession, not a command, I say this. I wish that all were as I myself am. But each has his own gift from God, one of one kind and one of another.
To the unmarried and to the widows I say that it is good for them to remain single as I am. But if they cannot exercise self-control, they should marry, for it is better to marry than to burn with passion.
Verse 10, to the married I give this charge, not I, but the Lord. The wife should not separate from her husband, but if she does, she should remain unmarried or else be reconciled to her husband, and the husband should not divorce his wife.
To the rest I say, I, not the Lord. That if any brother has a wife who is an unbeliever and she consents to live with him, he should not divorce her. If any woman has a husband who is an unbeliever and he consents to live with her, she should not divorce him. For the unbelieving husband is made holy because of his wife, and the unbelieving wife is made holy because of her husband. Otherwise your children would be unclean, but as it is, they are holy. But if the unbelieving partner separates, let it be so. In such cases, the brother or sister is not enslaved. God has called you to peace. For how do you know, wife, whether you will save your husband? Or how do you know, husband, whether you will save your wife?
Verse 17, only let each person lead the life that the Lord has assigned to him, and to which God has called him. This is my rule in all the churches. Was anyone at the time of his call already circumcised? Let him not seek to remove the marks of circumcision. Was anyone at the time of his call uncircumcised? Let him not seek circumcision. For neither circumcision counts for anything, nor uncircumcision, but keeping the command of God. Each one should remain in the condition in which he was called. Verse 21, were you a bondservant when called? Do not be concerned about it. But if you can gain your freedom, avail yourself of the opportunity.
For sure.
For he who was called in the Lord as a bondservant is a freed man of the Lord. Likewise, he who was free when called is a bondservant of Christ. You were bought with a price. Do not become bondservants of men. So, brothers, in whatever condition each was called, there let him remain with God.
Okay, there's the repetition of the counsel is to remain in the condition which you were called. Verse 24 and verse 20. Okay, verse 25. Now concerning the betrothed, that is like an engagement, but more deep and stronger. I have no command from the Lord. And when he says, I'm speaking from the Lord, or I have command from the Lord, it means that Jesus addressed this directly during his ministry. But this is under the inspiration of the Lord. He still has inspired, but it didn't come from the mouth of Jesus, is the idea here. I have no command from the Lord, that is from the mouth of Jesus when he was on earth. But I give my judgment as one who by the Lord's mercy is trustworthy. I think that in view of the present distress, it is good for a person to remain as he is. Are you bound to a wife? Do not seek to be free. Are you free from a wife? Do not seek a wife. But if you do marry, you have not sinned, and if a betrothed woman marries, she has not sinned. Yet those who marry will have worldly troubles, and I would spare you that. So he's talking particularly in a time of persecution, which was happening in the early church, that it's much more difficult if you have a wife and family than if you're single. You can just slip away someplace, you can flee, you can go. But if you have a family, it's so much more difficult when persecution comes. And that's what he says, according to the time, verse 26, the present distress. This verse 29, this is what I mean, brothers. The appointed time has grown very short. From now on, let those who have wives live as though they had none, and those who mourn as though they were not mourning, and those who rejoice as though they were not rejoicing, and those who buy as though they had no goods, and those who deal with the world as though they had no dealings with it. For the present form of this world is passing away.
Verse 32, I want you to be free from anxieties. The unmarried man is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to please the Lord. But the married man is anxious about worldly things, how to please his wife. And his interests are divided. And the unmarried or betrothed woman is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to be holy in body and spirit. But the married woman is anxious about worldly things, how to please her husband.
I'm thankful that you're anxious about worldly things, how to please your husband, because you do very well at that.
Well, and I think it's not saying that that's wrong.
No, it's very good.
It's just what it is.
Yeah, we're constrained in our marriage to look out after each other and to serve one another and to look after each other's interests.
Right, which is what we should be doing.
Which I'm thankful. And on the trip, we had Mom's Mobile Cafe. You brought so much food for us and fed us well and guided us. And you packed so well. You help with so many things, for sure.
Well, thank you. But verse 35, I say this for your own benefit, not to lay any restraint upon you, but to promote good order and to secure your undivided devotion to the Lord.
If anyone thinks he is not behaving properly toward his betrothed, if his passions are strong, and it has to be, let him do as he wishes, let them marry. It is no sin. But whoever is firmly established in his heart, being under no necessity of having his desire under control, and is determined that this in his heart, to keep her as his betrothed, he will do well. So then he who marries his betrothed does well, and he who refrains from marriage will do even better.
A wife is bound to her husband as long as he lives. But if her husband dies, she is free to be married to whom she wishes, only in the Lord. Yet, in my judgment, she is happier if she remains as she is, and I think that I too have the Spirit of God.
I think so. Yep, we know so. Okay, so chapter 7 is really questions concerning marriage. And so singleness in marriage, so like if that's all your summary is, then that would be fine. Some principles here, though, is it says initially, right, don't deprive one another. And then just even says remain how you were called. Right? Singleness is good, but if you marry, you don't sin as well. So those are like some principles about the marriage he's talking about. Okay, and then chapter 8, there is a question about food offered to idols, and that was a big issue back in the day of people like going to the meat market, but that meat had been offered to an idol, and for some people, it was not a big deal because there aren't really idols. Our idols aren't anything, but for some people who are coming out of that paganism, it was a big deal.
Right.
So here we go, chapter 8, verse 1. Now concerning food offered to idols, we know that all possess knowledge. This knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. If anyone imagines that he knows something, he does not yet know as he ought to know. But if anyone loves God, he is known by God.
Therefore, as to the eating of food offered to idols, we know that an idol has no real existence and that there is no God but one. For although there may be so-called gods in heaven or on earth, as indeed there are many gods and many lords, yet for us there is one God, the Father, from whom are all things and for whom we exist, and one Lord Jesus Christ, through whom are all things and through whom we exist.
And I love how Paul argues here. He says the one with the knowledge should just bend, should change his behavior just so as not to offend or cause someone to stumble. Because basically he says that idol has, verse 4, no real existence. So he says, however, not all possess this knowledge, verse 7, but some, through former association with idols, eat food as if really offered to an idol, and their conscience being weak is defiled. Food will not commend us to God. We are no worse off if we do not eat, and no better off if we do. But take care that if this right of yours does not somehow become a stumbling block to the weak. For if anyone sees you who have knowledge eating in an idol's temple, will he not be encouraged, if his conscience is weak, to eat food offered to idols? And so by your knowledge this weak person is destroyed, the brother for whom Christ died. Thus sinning against your brothers and wounding their conscience when it is weak, you sin against Christ. Therefore, if food makes my brother stumble, I will never eat meat, lest I make my brother stumble.
So I think there, verse 13 is really key, of just the humility to give up your own rights and preferences so that you don't cause someone else to stumble.
Yep, so chapter 8.
And being aware of that as well.
Yes. So chapter 8 is about concerning food offered idols, and the key principle comes there in verse 13. It says, don't cause others to stumble because of food. Okay, we will see you tomorrow with some more questions and answers.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.